Hello, hello, welcome everybody. I'm Jev. Yes, Triple V. The accent, by the way, is purely Kiwi. I read old stories for children, so we keep this a family-friendly channel by having bad word blockers, banning bots, and preventing spam. So that means new followers need to wait a few minutes before they can join in the chat. Since these stories are so old, they're now in the public domain, which means they are free to read for anyone and by anyone, the way many Christmas songs are. The digital versions I read are from Project Gutenberg, and you'll find the link for that below. The physical ones are just old books my family has lying around. Sometimes I'll even show them to you. These, by the way, are live reads. Think of them as bedtime stories rather than actual audiobooks. You get the benefits of my mistakes, distractions, explanations, and terrible attempts at accents, along with plenty of chat and interruptions as we find out about things in the story. If you need to do work or chores, then that's fine. Just come and lurk. Please adjust your volume to suit. There are captions available if you have to be quiet or you have hearing challenges, but be warned, sometimes the captions aren't always that accurate. I am a member of the Codex, an awesome group of reading streamers on Twitch. People from many walks of life who share their love of reading, and you'll find links to the Codex reading team and our Discord server below. A special feature of the Codex Discord is the security channel for those of you who stream or moderate. You'll find lots of practical, useful information to help keep your stream and your community safe. So, hang around and come discover adventure with me. You never know what we'll find. Hi, I'm just going to run a tips video. It means I can carry on trying to fix up what I'm trying to fix up over here. So hang on a moment.
Oh, good day. We've stumbled across the raccoons and his stream viewing habitat. Let's watch as he learns how to better enjoy the stream and make the most of his viewing experience. Let's see, according to the video, there are 6 or 7. Number 1 would appear to be hydrate. We have our hydration right here. It's important to stay hydrated. It's good mentally and physically, and it's good for your vocal cords, other parts of your body, your mind. And that brings us to number 2. When the streamer does drink, you drink as well. Oh, what's this now? Oh, drinking. Drink. Did you drink now? Oh, you can indicate so by putting the water bottle emoji or thumbs up in chat. Next one, snacks. Raccoons has snacks. There appears to be trail mix and what's that? Carrot cake. Ooh, that looks yummy. Oh, I guess we can't have any. Number 4. Is to get comfy. Well, Raccoons has his lucky blanket right here, and Raccoons also has a teddy. Who can say no to that? Don't you have a teddy? Maybe a different kind of plushie. Being comfy is good for the mind. Number 5, something to write with or write on, because you never know when you might need to look something up later. We have 2 sizes of pads right over there, 2 pens in case one has really bad ink. Good job, Raccoons. Oh, on second thought, never mind. And that brings us to our final point, which is participate in chat. You can do things like type in chat, chat with other people in chat, use commands, play Jev Bingo. Raccoons has his own Jev Bingo card right here. You can spend pages and do things like forcing Jev to wear silly things on her head like headbands, crowns, unicorn horns, and perhaps one day even something like the one that's about to appear, if I remember correctly, unless it hasn't. Did it already happen? Oh, and you can make clips, you can submit quotes. Just try to enjoy the stream. There's another headband. There we go. So that should do it. Enjoy the stream, and I'm going to help myself to some of that trail mix. Or not. Ah!
We're back. Hi, how are you? I hope you're doing well. Seriously. If you are wondering about weird noise here, it's because it's bad weather outside and the chimney is making lots of noise as usual. We do have, since the chimney has been reinstalled, thanks to the plumber coming in and getting it sorted for us so we can have the fire going, we do have an extra sound in it. And I don't know what it is, but it's something to do with whatever it was he did with the cowling up on the roof. It makes an extra noise. It's sort of a whistly woo sort of a sound. So if you hear that, because I don't know if it's going to actually override my sound filters on my microphone, yeah, don't panic. It's just that I have a honking great chimney next to me, which has decided it's going to add an extra layer of sound to things. Anyway, so there you go. Sorry, my nose is itchy. It shouldn't be because I haven't been cuddling the cat, who is currently not on his chair. And my speaking of chair, my chair is slightly out of line for where I really want to be for doing this, because my book up here is a little bit bigger than it should be. All of that sort of thing, but we're going to ignore all of that anyway and get on with what we're doing. Oh, I should probably just realign my camera slightly. I think I moved it for some other reason and I don't remember what that was. So I'm just going to... Yeah, that'll do. Not quite so much my head being chopped off at the top. I'm okay with it being kind of in that grey band up the top because, you know, it's a little bit obvious if somebody's trying to remove my branding then because of the fact that it's got that. Yeah, we know where you got that one from. that sort of thing. Right. Anything else I need to check over here? No, good. I'm just checking that my chat identity does not currently include that I'm either I can't see it or I can't hear it. Did you know in chat, if you click on at the in the chat box, which is where you do all your commands and all that sort of stuff, if you click on the left hand side of it, there will be a buttonish thing there. For me, it's a picture of a movie camera because I'm currently streaming. That's what it shows me. But if you click on whatever it is that you have there when you're in chat, it gives you the option of changing how your identity for in chat, like these little bits here are a modified version of that. So I've got my name, I've got that I'm the broadcaster because it's got that red camera there, and then it's got a couple of other things there, and I can't see what they are at this scale. Actually, I might be able to if I hover over it. Oh, I'm a 3-year subscriber. That's this one here. And I have gifted 10 subs. So, but there are some other ones too, some of which are generic ones that are available to anyone to use, and other ones are from achievements on Twitch. So in my lineup, I have Good Luck, Have Fun key. It's a little wee button that you say that you're going to be a nice person on Twitch, basically. But one of the standard ones, identity change, is now known as Julio Iglesias. So another one that's there is watching without audio. That's the one that looks like a speaker with the little, the speaker with a little cross in front of it, which is commonly used as a mute button. To say when something is muted. And then the next one says listening only, that's what it's called, and it's a picture of an eye with a line through it, as in I can't see. So if I'm in someone's chat and I'm listening to them but I can't watch, I might put the listening only button. I know that one of our regulars here has it, so they've got the mute button on because they actually are watching the captions rather than listening, because the headspace that they're in, the different health issues that they've got, they can't cope with the sound for any of the stuff that they're doing, and so they actually limit what is overstimulating them or irritating them by reading the captions, which is why it's a little bit awkward, the fact that they can be so wild at times. But thankfully they actually that's what it is. Thankfully they actually do recognize what it is that I'm trying to say most of the time, so that's good. There are other ones like Share the Love, which was when people streamed on Valentine's Day, I think they got it. There's other things like you've looked at your Twitch recap in 2023 or 2024, you've received one and you've done it. Or you can actually just tell it not to show any of them. There is actually one of the ones up there is to remove any of those that are visible. So if you're a moderator, if someone's a moderator, they will have the green square, which has it faces that way, the sword icon in it. That's because they're a moderator in that channel. You cannot turn that one off. That one's standard. That one's there. There are other things like that that are available. And then I'm trying to see if there's anything else I need. And also you can change what color your name shows as in chat. Not what shows here, because that's the settings that I have for this system of chat overlay on my stream, but what shows for me when I'm looking at chat in the normal panel. Okay, so I have chosen to have mine a mid-green color, because then if I am chatting on someone's stream and they have it in light mode, don't ask me why they do that, then my label is going to show up, and if I have it in dark mode, it's also going to show. So like initially I might have tried using the blue one the darker blue one, but that doesn't show well in dark mode. So if you find people saying, I can't read your name, that's where you find it. You click on that little button at the left-hand end of the chat bar and then scroll down through the options in chat identity to find it. And it's called global name color. That's where you get to check it, change it. So pick a color, any color. It may take several minutes for your color to update in the chat room. I don't know if it changes it further up the chat. I think it just goes from then onwards. And then, I mean, there is even an option to, if you have Twitch Turbo, change it to a non-standard color. So there you go. All that sort of stuff. Now I have to get out of that, whatever it was I got into. No, go away. Now it's trying to tell me I'm in Twitter. No, go away, go away. Let me go back to my standard chat. It just brought up in my overlay some stuff which would normally be clickable to be able to get rid of it if I'm looking in browser, but I'm not. I'm actually in OBS, so I had to hit the back button. Goriki says, apparently I can't mess with identity/icons at all in mod mode screen. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yes. Yeah, so what I was talking about is actually only an option that's available in normal chat. So if somebody was in chat, and that's also same goes for if you're broadcasting using and you're looking in the Twitch dashboard as the broadcaster, but I know that in normal stream chat you get an option to be able to change it. So there you go. If anyone's ever wondering about that, there's your educational piece of information from Jeff's stream today. So what are we up to? We are going to read the next section of Tom Swift and his Airship. I say section because there's no point in saying the next chapter, because it'll be more than one chapter unless we get really derailed. So do I have drinks, water, food? You know I've got something to write with and something to write on. I always do. I always have water here just because, yeah, I like drinking water. But for drinks, I actually have an iced coffee today. And for something to snack on, I'm going to get these out. I'm going to try not to eat them because they do make me headachy, which is not good. It's the sugar. It's the high levels of sugar in them. But I do like eating them. So I did actually open them. Sorry, trying to cover the brand name, but you can still see it. I am going to have one because I have a slight headache, and I have found that sometimes hair of the dog that bit you is actually the thing that helps if it's not too much, and if the pain that you have, if it's like headachy, is not too intense either. So I do have those to eat. I will not be eating lots of those today. What else? For a second I saw the lid to the cookie jar and was all, what cookie is that? It's you. Good point. So this cookie jar, it's actually a lid that's made out of bamboo. We get quite a few bamboo style. Technically it's listed as wood, but also sometimes they'll specify that it's bamboo for usage. We get quite a few bamboo material things these days in New Zealand because we get a lot of stuff from China, because they're a lot closer as a trading country and we can afford stuff from there compared with some of the other places. Most of the world's like that, by the way. It's all very well to have principles, but don't starve to death, okay, folks? You've got to find the balance between the two. So, yeah, that's my big cookie, is my bamboo lid for my treat jar. Now, if you're ever looking for a treat jar to be able to put your treats in for when you're streaming, to just have them handy, but also to keep the ants out of them, something like this is ideal. No, that didn't come with my QR code on it. That's my coffee QR code. So, there you go. It just sits there, over there in the back corner. It says treat time. And if you can't find one, or if they're really, really expensive, in the kitchenware section of your department store, because usually it's cheaper at a department store than a specialty kitchenware shop. Okay, don't be silly. Don't throw your money away. If you've got money that you want to throw away, give it to streamers. They could do with it. But it's also got this little silicone rubber gasket on it to stop it from... It keeps things fresh inside. It's just a flexible little band that fits into it. It keeps anything inside it fresh, like if you had cat treats or something in there, you wouldn't get the smell from it. But it also means that ants don't get in there, which is important in the house that I live in. We're in a warmer part of New Zealand. It does get cool in winter, but it doesn't get cold. So their numbers don't get knocked back in winter very much. They don't actually hibernate up where we are. They just sort of get a bit slower. And also because it gets quite damp and humid and wet from rain, they proliferate. It's not nice. It's not fun. I don't enjoy it. But if you are looking for a treat jar, don't just look in the kitchenware section. Definitely don't just look in a kitchenware shop unless they happen to be running a really super special on something. Look at the department store, look at the cheap department store or the hardware store. Some hardware stores do sell household items as well. And also look in the petware section, stuff that is sold for your pets. That's where that one's from. It's a pet treat jar. It's ideal because it says treat time. Yes, they are treats. So there you go. And I'm going to open my coffee and have a mouthful because I think I need it. Sorry. I don't know what you need, but this is what I need. I hope you've got a nice drink handy, and I hope you've got something nice to eat, or you have been eating something nice. If you have snacks, what have you got? Do tell us. If you've just eaten a yummy meal, you can tell us about that one too. We like food around here. Yum. It's just what I needed. Right. So the weather is outside is cold, wet and windy. Relatively speaking, cold being, most of you would not think it's cold. But inside we've got the fire going, so it's a little bit warmer up here. Derailed. This is a new one, by the way, that Goriki has set up. Derail. There's a 97% chance that a derail/ramble will occur in just the next few minutes. Yes, well, there you go. We've been doing it. So now we're going to get back to what we're actually here for, technically, which is me reading Tom Swift and his Airship. I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to just give you as little extra tidbits of information. I don't know why I do that. I just do. I like doing that. And so if you don't like doing that, then la 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 la. And I'm talking to certain people in my community here because they get annoyed with it sometimes. Staring. Right, here we go. Chapter 9 is the runaway auto. So that's why I've got the title of today's stream is They Won the Race, but because last time I think I had something about will they survive or will the airship survive or whatever, because we knew that they were going to have that race. I wondered if they were going to have a crash or something else, or if it was going to be majorly sabotaged. There were some attempts on it, remember, last time? So last time they actually had this race that they went to and they won, which was awesome. The first race they did of that sequence, they didn't win. The Frenchman won, but they won the second one, so that was good. So here we go, Chapter 9, the runaway auto. That auto in this era is car, motor vehicle, automobile. That's what it's short for. The runaway auto. Had the inventors of the Red Cloud desired, they could have made considerable money by giving further exhibitions at the Blakeville Aero Carnival. Now, just remember, in the Discord server for Tom Swift, which is now at the top of the book section, Goriki has put 2 links to do with air shows right around the time that this book was published. So there's a lot of that sort of thing. Maybe the auto had a rough home life. Yeah. So it ran away. Good thinking. So the idea of the air show that they were part of and it being significant and it actually having airships, not just aeroplanes, was actually based on fact. So do have a look at those links in the Discord server, from the Discord server. They could have made considerable money by giving further exhibitions at the Blakeville Aero Carnival and at others which were to be held in the near future at adjoining cities. CZ links. The fame of the new machine had spread, and there were many invitations to compete for prizes, but Tom and Mr. Sharp wished to try their skill in a long flight, and at the close of the Blakeville exhibition they started for Shopton. That's where they come from. Arriving there without mishap, though Tom more than half hoped that they might happen to strike the tower of a certain school. I needn't specify where. Oh, by the way, this series of books, the Tom Swift books, and also one other series of books which have a female protagonist, are, I think, the only two series that Stratemeyer Syndicate did where the main character ends up getting married. Or not ends up, somewhere along the line gets married, or has a strong commitment to one particular romantic individual. The rest of the time after that, they decided they weren't going to involve that sort of emotional complication in their stories because their target audience weren't really interested in that sort of thing. They were a little bit younger than that age bracket, and they finally figured that out. Yay. Yay, as in those kids don't need the emotional romantic pressure at that stage of their lives. They can just get on with being a kid and enjoying an adventure. So here we go. The first thing to be done was to complete the fitting up of the car or cabin. So that's what on things like the Graf Zeppelin is called the gondola, unlike the... I nearly called it Led Zeppelin. The Hindenburg, which actually has all the accommodation and all that sort of stuff inside the main envelope. They actually enclosed that whole area with a gas-proof outer so that it was in the space of the balloon itself, probably to reduce windage. We did talk about that last time. So, yeah, so they're fitting up that bit that is on the underside of the airship. No berths had as yet been put in, and these were first installed after the Red Cloud was in her shed. Then an electrical heating and cooking apparatus was fitted. Electrical because it is lifted by gas, remember? Do not need naked flames on this vessel. Was fitted in some additional machinery, tanks for carrying water and chemicals for making the gas, boxes of provisions, various measuring instruments and other supplies were put in the proper places until the cabin was filled almost to its capacity. Of course, particular attention had been paid to the ship proper, and every portion was gone over until Mr. Sharp was sure it was in shape for a long flight. Now the question is, he said to Tom one evening, who shall we take with us? You and I will go, of course, but I'd like one more. I wonder if your father can't be induced to accompany us. He seemed to like the trial trip. I'll ask him tomorrow, said the lad. Oh, there's a key word. We need water for this key word. I'm just looking for my other water bottle. That's the one, lad. Oh, I didn't refill that one. I've refilled the other. Well, the others are at least half full. I'll ask him tomorrow, said the lad. We've done that one. He's very busy tonight. If he doesn't care about it, maybe Garrett Jackson will go. I'm afraid not. He's too timid. I'd like to take Ned Newton, but he can't get any more time away from the bank. I guess we'll have to depend on Dad. But to the surprise of Tom and Mr. Sharp, the aged inventor shook his head when the subject was broached to him the next day. Why won't you go, Dad? Asked his son. I'll tell you, replied Mr. Swift. I was keeping it a secret until I had made some advance in what I was engaged upon, but I don't want to go because I am on the verge of perfecting a new apparatus. Or I don't know how else you might want to say it, but I'm calling it apparatus.
for submarine boats. It will revolutionize travel under the water, and I don't want to leave home until I finish it. There is another point to be considered. The government has offered a prize for an underwater boat of a new type, and I wish to try for it, because they make their living off their inventions, remember? So that's what you've been working on, eh, Dad? Asked his son. That's it, and much as I should like to accompany you, I don't feel free to go. My mind would be distracted, and I need to concentrate myself on this invention. It will produce the most wonderful results, I'm sure. Besides, the government prize is no small one. It is $50,000 for a successful boat. Mr. Swift told something more about his submarine, but as I expect to treat of that in another book, I will not dwell on it here, as I know you are anxious to learn what happened on the trip of the Red Cloud. Well, remarked Mr. Sharp somewhat dubiously, I wonder who we can get to go. We need someone besides you and I, Tom. I suppose I could get Eradicate Sampson and his mule Boomerang, replied the lad with a smile. Lad? That wasn't very successful. Yet, I don't know. At that instant there was a tremendous racket outside. The loud puffing of an automobile could be heard, but mingled with it was the crash of wood. And then the whole house seemed jarred and shaken. So somebody's crashed into the house. Yay, just what we need. Is it an earthquake? Exclaimed Mr. Swift, springing to his feet and rushing to the library windows. Something's happened, cried Tom. Yeah, clever boy, that. Something's happened. Maybe an explosion of the airship. Gas, said Mr. Sharp, making ready to run to the balloon shed. But there was no need. The crashing of wood ceased, and above the puffing of an auto could be heard a voice exclaiming, Bless my very existence! Bless my cats and dogs! Good gracious! But I never meant to do this! We know this voice, don't we? Even though the voice is probably different. Tom, his father, and Mr. Sharp rushed to the long, low windows that opened onto the veranda. There on the porch, which it had mounted by way of the steps, tearing away part of the railing, was a large touring car. I'll explain that in a minute. And sitting at the steering wheel in a dazed sort of manner was Mr. Wakefield Damon. We've had him before. That was how we got something else along the way that Tom got as an invention. The motorbike that started it all off, the motorcycle. So these days, if you're an aficionado of vintage cars, now vintage cars is earlier than the end of the Second World War, I think, but I can't remember the exact determiner for it. So people will say, oh yeah, my uncle had vintage cars, he had da-da-da-da, and they'll talk about it. And I'm thinking like, that car was around when I grew up. That's not vintage. That's not that old, not really. So a touring car in New Zealand, if you're into vintage cars, is usually called a tourer, which means it has, like you go off on a tour, it usually means it has a fold-down roof, a soft roof that can fold down, among other things. There are other aspects of it. Touring car and tourer are both terms for open cars, i.e. cars without a fixed roof. It's a style of open car built in the United States which seats 4 or more people. The style was popular from the early 1900s to the 1930s. They were used for touring car racing. See the car one that goes with the magnificent men and their flying machines. And I can't remember what it's called. And they've been used for touring car racing in various series since the 1960s and are unrelated. The cars used for touring racing since the 1960s are nothing to do with these earlier tourers. Now, I will find a picture for you of an earlier one, and I will then show that to you over here. Not overlay. I've got a thing for it. Twitch alerts, no. Overlay, no. Illustrations. I had a link set up. Oh, it was display capture. It wasn't actually there. Except I've trimmed it. I was thinking it was a browser capture, but it's not. It's actually display capture, because that means that I can then actually do this with it. And if this was something that you can see my mouse too. If it was on a full-size page rather than being the pop-up window of the image, then I would be able to scroll through it. So let's just make this a little bit bigger so you can see all of it. Actually, I could just turn off the overlay. Then you don't have the chat in the way for now. So this sort of car. So this is a 1913. So this is 3 years after the book. Let's turn off those keywords for a minute, because they feel like they're in the way too. This is 3 years after the book, okay? This was not uncommon. They were built with this much more separate engine compartment at the front and then this body back here. And they were based originally off coachwork done for carriages and things like this. That's why the people who used to build the bodies of cars were called coach builders, which then went on in England to be the term used for people who built buses, but not normal around town bus route ones, but when you go off on a trip, because they used to be the ones who used to build coaches that were drawn by horses. So even earlier than this era, automobiles were actually in this a lot more, in that you can see the connection between horse-drawn carriages and coaches and automobiles. You can see that progression of design style. So this is a touring car because it has, this can be, that roof is held on with these straps here. You see those? They can be unhooked, and then this front edge of the roof folds back and down onto the back edge of the seat here. And that's all made out of a flexible surface, whether it's the equivalent of oilskin or the equivalent of modern vinyl with a fabric backing or whatever. There's so many different ways they used to make them. There's a young guy down the road from us who's restored an early one of these sort of things, just a 2-door, not a 4-door. But with the soft top like this. And he actually used sacking. He used the sort of hessian that's used for great big wool sacks, not the modern plasticky stuff, but the actual fibre, natural fibre ones. And it looks really cool and quite steampunky in its own little way. Not unusual in this era to have wooden spokes for the wheels. Yes, I remember these. I remember having to take a wheel off and help with repairing a puncture in it, because my dad used to have these sort of ones. There's the horn. He just squeezes that bulb up there and it goes, ooga, ooga, when you squeeze it. This one's a split windscreen, which means if it gets a bit hot inside, even though you've got wool open around the sides, you can actually tilt that bottom edge forward slightly and it scoops air in through it. Things like that. They have things that are called side curtains, which are, it has a metal stick that goes up on one side and then a bit of the, whatever the roofing fabric is for the roof, and a panel that fills in the gap. And it doesn't flap, it just sits there. It's a little bit flappy, but not like a normal household curtain and all that sort of stuff. So this is what they mean by a touring car, is this sort of vehicle. Slightly earlier than this, so probably the engine compartment at the front would be even more distinctly separate from the main body of it. Often actually a lot more rounded. really, really early ones, they would have started off with lamps, fuel lamps, not electric, just because that was what they had available at the time. And then they would have developed more, because the faster you go, the more likely that is to get blown out. This has got some extras added to it, like the fact that this actually has a rear view mirror here. That wouldn't have been original. They didn't used to have those, because when you're driving a horse and carriage, they don't have rear view mirrors. So this was a later development, because there is more traffic on the road and you need to see what's going on. And also, it's a lot narrower here than it is back here. They actually are tapered, and so it's a little bit hard sometimes to see past the back part of it if you're in the front seat. So there you go, all sorts of stuff. Let's turn these things back on. So we need to find key. Let's turn keywords on, and let's find overlay and turn that one on, and turn off the display capture. There you go. And we're back to normal. So a touring car, that sort of vehicle, that's what it would have been. Just mute that tab just in case, because I don't want it to be playing sound through here anyway. I don't think it was. Nobody said anything, so I think we're good. Right. There on the porch, which it had mounted by way of the steps, tearing away part of the railing, was a large touring car. And sitting at the steering wheel in a dazed sort of manner was Mr. Wakefield Damon. "Bless my shirt studs," he went on feebly, "but I have done it now." "What's the matter?" cried Tom, hastening up to him. "What happened? Are you hurt?" "Hurt? No, not a bit of it. Bless my moonstone." Although why moonstone, I don't know. Can somebody find out what the significance was to the general public back in 1910 of moonstone? It might be significant. "It's the most lucky escape I've ever had, but I've damaged your porch and I haven't done my machine any good." He played DDV. One of the gems in DDV. Actually, I don't think it is. I think it's opal that we have, and moonstone, yeah, the currency, not an actual gem. Sorry, my brain just went sideways there, because I know what moonstones look like as a semi-precious stone, as opposed to what they use in the game. Very good. So I was thinking of the opals, because their colouring is a little bit like moonstone. "But I've damaged your porch and I haven't done my machine any good. Do you see anything of another machine chasing me?" Tom looked puzzled, but glanced up and down the road. Far down the highway could be discerned a cloud of dust, and from the midst of it came a faint chug-chug. "Looks like an auto down there," he said. "Thank goodness, bless my trousers, but I've escaped him," cried the eccentric man from whom Tom had purchased his motorcycle. I hope he's not going to be talking lots, because I can feel it. "Escaped who?" asked Mr. Swift. "Those men, they were after me, but I may as well get out and explain. Dear me, however will I get my car off your porch?" I'm just going to say, if they have a big solid fence around their yard, like they do at the back where all the workshops are, and if they have a gate of a big solid nature, like you can't see through it easily, maybe go and shut it about now, so that whoever these people are that he was running away from can't see that he's inside the yard. But I don't think they're going to think like that. "Dear me, however will I get my car off your porch?" And Mr. Damon seemed quite distressed. "Never mind," answered Tom. "We can manage that. Tell us what happened." "Exactly," cried Mr. Damon, growing calmer. "Bless my shoe buttons, but I had a fright. 2 of them, in fact. You see," he went on, "I was out partly on pleasure and partly on business. The pleasure consisted in riding in my auto, which my physician recommended for my health," because he's meant to be getting out and about more to get a little bit healthier. I think it probably would help a bit more if he was doing things like walking. "The business consisted in bringing to the Shopton Bank a large amount of cash, Well, I deposited it all right, but as I came out, I saw some men hanging around. I didn't like their looks, and I saw them eyeing me rather sharply. I thought I had seen them before, and sure enough I had. 2 of the men belonged to that Happy Harry gang. Tom made a quick motion of a caution, pointing to his father, but it was not necessary, as Mr. Swift was absent-mindedly calculating on a piece of paper he had taken from his pocket, and had not heard what Mr. Damon said. The latter, however, knew what Tom meant, and went on. "Oh, thank you. The unique beauty of handcrafted moonstone jewellery. Very good." I wonder why. Moonstones became popular in jewellery in the early 1900s. So it was a newish thing. All the popular modern things, hence why Mr. Damon has referenced it, because he's into all the modern popular things. First used only as accents, they became more prominent with the Art Nouveau and arts and crafts movements. Those are decorating and art styles, by the way, in case you're wondering. René Lalique, which is actually also a name that is used for a ceramics or pottery or crockery style, Lalique, I think. Very famous. In particular, helped to popularise the stone by featuring it in many of his, there you go, handcrafted designs. Around the same time, Louis Comfort Tiffany, that's where Tiffany got its name from, was also designing jewellery to showcase the gem for his father's famous jewellery store. Most recently, the Flower Children of the 1960s and 70s made moonstone jewellery part of blah, 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 blah. So what we think of as moonstone is not necessarily what lapidarists, I think that's how they say it, the people who do gemstones and tumbling and all that sort of tumbling gemstones. There's actually a particular type of stone, but the stuff that we see these days in jewellery that's called moonstone is actually a milk glass, a glass that has an opaque component put into it. Just because, and I actually prefer the glass style one. They get the right balance between opacity and transparency, and it's lovely. And it's the one that they usually do with a cabochon style of cut, instead of having flat faceted faces on it, which a standard gemstone has done. It's where they have that smooth rounded surface on it, which actually really suits it. It just sort of highlights what it is a lot better. Anyway, we'll carry on. But thank you for finding that too, Goriki. And yes, it does make sense now that he's talking about Bless My Moonstone, because it was a feature that was fairly new at the time, possibly for things like tie pins. There you go. So Mr. Damon understood about just keeping the talk down about the Happy Harry gang, because his dad is not strong. He's not a strong man. He gets ill very easily because he spends so much time concentrating so hard on things that he drains his resources, his physical resources, and gets ill easily because of it. It's not, in certain contexts, it's not so uncommon. Well, I didn't like the looks of these men, and when I saw them sizing me up, evidently thinking I had drawn money out instead of putting it in, I decided to give them the slip. I got in my auto, but I was startled to see them get in their car. I headed for here as I was coming to pay you a visit anyhow, and the mysterious men kept after me. It became a regular race. I put on all the speed I could and headed for your house, Tom, for I thought you could help me. I went faster and faster, and so did They were almost up to me, and I was just thinking of slowing down to turn in here when I lost control of my machine, and, well, I did turn in here, but not exactly as I intended. Bless my gaiters! I came in with rather more of a rush than I expected. It was awful, positively awful, I assure you. You've no idea how nervous I was, but I escaped those scoundrels, for they rushed on when they saw what I had done, smashing the porch. Oh, so the car that Tom saw was going away. That's good. Smashed the porch railing. Probably thought you'd smash them, observed Tom with a laugh. But why did they follow you? Can't imagine. Haven't the least idea. Bless my spark plug. But they might have imagined I had money. Anyhow, I'm glad I escaped them. It's lucky you weren't hurt, said Mr. Sharp, and I have no idea how he sounds anymore. Oh, me? Bless my existence, I'm always having narrow escapes. Mr. Damon caught sight of the red cloud, which was out in front of the big shed. Bless my heart, what's that? He added. Our new airship, answered Tom proudly. We're just planning a long trip in it, but we can't find a third member of the party to go along. A third member? Exclaimed Mr. Damon. Do you really mean it? We do. Bless my shoelaces, will you take me along? Do you mean that? Asked Tom in turn, foreseeing a way out of their difficulties. I certainly do, answered the eccentric man. I am much interested in airships, and I might as well die up in the clouds as any other way. Certainly I prefer it to being smashed up in an auto. Will you take me? Of course, cried Tom heartily, and Mr. Sharp nodded his assent. I think they might have discussed it together first, but the fact that they desperately need a third person on board, I don't know how he's going to help them, really, because he's not very good at staying focused. Then Tom drew Mr. Damon to one side. We'll arrange the trip in a few minutes, the lad said. Tell me more about those mysterious men, please. Lad, let's drink. Chapter 10, A Bag of Tools. Wakefield Damon glanced at Mr. Swift. The inventor was oblivious to his surroundings. This is immediately carrying on, by the way. The inventor was oblivious to his surroundings and was busy figuring away on some paper. He seemed even to have forgotten the presence of the eccentric autoist. There you go. If you drive cars, you can call yourself an autoist. I don't want father to hear about the men, went on Tom in a low tone. If he hears that Happy Harry and his confederates are in this vicinity, he'll worry, and that doesn't agree with him. But are you sure the men you saw are the same ones who stole the turbine model? Very certain, replied Mr. Damon. I had a good view of them as I came out from the bank, and I was surprised to see them until I remembered that they were out of jail. But why do you think they pursued you? Bless my eyes, I can't say. Perhaps they weren't after me at all. I may have imagined it, but they certainly hurried off in their auto as soon as I left the bank after leaving my money there. I'm glad I deposited it before I saw them. I was so nervous as it was that I couldn't steer straight. It's too bad the way I've damaged your house. Excuse me. I don't know what he makes his money off, but he always seems to have a lot because he gets new things. That doesn't matter, but how about the trip in the airship? I hope you meant it when you said you'd go. Of course I did. I've never travelled in the air, but it can't be much worse than my experience with my motorcycle and the auto. At least I can't run up any stoop, can I? That's the front porch, which took me a long time to figure that out, because I thought it was a misspelling of step, because it's not a word we use in New Zealand. It's very East Coast American, from what I can tell. I don't know. It's probably originally from Dutch or German, actually. And Mr. Damon looked at Mr. Sharp. No, sorry. Mixing up voices. At least I can't run up any stoop, can I? And Mr. Damon looked at Mr. Sharp. No, replied the aeronaut as he scratched his head. I guess you'll be safe on that score. But I hope you won't get nervous when we reach a great height. "Oh no, I'll just calm myself with the reflection that I can't die but once." And with this philosophical reflection, Mr. Damon went back to look at the auto, which certainly looked odd, stuck up on the veranda. "Well, you'd better make arrangements to go with us then," went on Tom. "Meanwhile, I'll see to getting your car down. You'll want to send it home, I suppose." "No, not if you'll keep it for me. The fact is that all my folks are away and will be for some time. I don't have to go home to notify them, and it's a good thing, as my wife is very nervous and might object if she heard about the airship. I'll just stay here, if you've no objection, until the Red Cloud sails, if sails is the proper term." I'm not surprised his wife is very nervous, are you? "Sails will do very well," answered Mr. Sharp. "But, Tom, let's see if you and I can't get that car down. Perhaps Mr. Damon would like to go in the house and talk to your father." For Mr. Swift had left the piazza. That's the open flat space in front of the house, and it's usually used to do with palaces and cities and very old European things, not American, as far as I know. It's not a usage I'm used to in kids' books set in the States. The eccentric individual was glad enough not to be on hand when his car was eased down from the veranda and disappeared into the house. He disappeared into the house. Tom and Mr. Sharp, with the aid of Garrett Jackson, then released the auto from its position. They had to take down the rest of the broken railing, and their task was easy enough. The machine was stored in a disused shed, and Mr. Damon had no further concern until it was time to undertake the trip through the air. "It will fool those men if I mysteriously disappear," he said with a smile. "Bless my hatband, but they'll wonder what became of me. We'll just slip off in the Red Cloud and they'll never be the wiser." "Don't know about that," said Tom. "I fancy they're keeping pretty close watch in this vicinity, and I don't like it. I'm afraid they're up to some mischief. I should think the bank authorities would have them locked up upon suspicion. I think I'll telephone Ned about it. Oh, yeah. Back in the day, apparently you could phone up the police, and if someone looked suspicious, they'd be locked up." He did so. He phoned his chum Ned about it, and his chum in turn notified the bank watchman. But the next day it was reported that no sign of the men had been seen, and later it was learned that an auto, answering the description of the one they were in, had been seen going south many miles from Shopton. These guys have a lot of experience in making it look like they're doing something else and getting away with it, remember? The work of preparing the Red Cloud for the long trip was all but completed. It had been placed back in the shed, while a few more adjustments were made to the machinery. "Bless my eyelashes!" exclaimed Mr. Damon a few days before the one set for the start. "But I haven't asked where we're bound for. Where are we going anyhow, Mr. Sharp?" "We're going to try and reach Atlanta, Georgia," replied the balloonist. "That will take a fairly long trip, and the winds at this season are favourable in that direction." "That suits me all right," declared Mr. Damon. "I'm all ready and anxious to start." He must have sent home for clothing or something like that. It was decided to give the airship a few more trials around Shopton before setting out, to see how it behaved with the car heavier loaded than usual. With this in view, a trip was made to Roxmond with Mr. Swift, Mr. Damon, and Ned, in addition to Mr. Sharp and Tom on board. Then, at Tom's somewhat blushing request, a stop was made near the seminary, and when the pupils came trooping out, the young inventor asked Miss Nestor if she didn't want to take a little flight. She consented, and with two pretty companions climbed rather hesitatingly into the car. No great height was attained, but the girls were fully satisfied, and after their first alarm really enjoyed the spin in the air, with Tom proudly presiding at the steering wheel, which Mr. Sharp relinquished to the lad, for he understood Tom's feelings. 3 days later, all was in readiness for the trip to Atlanta. Mr. Swift was earnestly invited to undertake it, both Tom and Mr. Sharp urging him, but the veteran inventor said he must stay at home and work on his submarine plans. The evening before the start, when the aeronaut and Tom were giving a final inspection to the craft in the big shed, Mr. Sharp exclaimed, I declare, Tom, I believe you'll have to take a run into town. What for? Why, to get that kit of special tools I ordered, which we might need to make repairs. There are some long-handled wrenches, some spare levers, and a couple of braces and bits. Harrison, the hardware dealer, ordered them for me from New York, and they were to be ready this afternoon, but I forgot them. Take an empty valise with you, and you can carry them on your motorcycle. I'm sorry to have forgotten it, but that's all right, Mr. Sharp. I'll just as soon go as not. It'll make the time pass more quickly. I'll start right off. I think he's probably going to visit somebody. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out shortly. An hour later, having received the tools, which made quite a bundle, the lad put them in the valise and started back toward home. As he swung around the corner on which the bank was located, the same bank in which Ned Newton worked, one of the valves on the motorcycle began to leak. Tom dismounted to adjust it and had completed the work, being about to ride on, when down the street came Andy Foger and Sam Snedeker. They started at the sight of our hero. "There he is now," exclaimed Sam, as if he and the red-haired bully had been speaking of the young inventor. "Let's lick him," proposed Andy. "Now's our chance to get even for throwing that paint and soot on us." Tom heard their words. He was not afraid of both the lads, for though each one matched him in size and strength, Tom knew they were cowards. "If you're looking for anything, I guess I can accommodate you," he said coolly. "Come on, Andy," urged Sam, but somehow Andy hung back. Perhaps he didn't like the way Tom squared off. The young inventor had let down the rear brace of his motorcycle and was not obliged to hold it, so he had both hands free. The rear brace. Oh, the kickstand. The motorbike's standing on its own. He doesn't need to hold it up. That's what that was. "We ought to lick him good and proper," growled the squint-eyed lad. "Well, why don't you?" invited Tom. He moved to one side so as not to be hampered by his wheel. As he did so, he knocked from the handlebars the valise of tools. They fell with a clatter and a thud to the pavement, and the satchel came open. It was under a gas lamp, and the glitter of long-handled wrenches and other implements caught the eyes of Andy and his crony. Let's see if this is going to work. There's meant to be a little pop-up of a 4 that's a shadow. We have some foreshadowing here, folks, in case you hadn't already figured that out. I know that's not how you spell foreshadow, but I used the number 4 in the image. Anyway, other implements caught the eyes of Andy and his crony. Oh dear, we are going to have to remember this for later on. I'm pretty sure they're going to try and frame him. "Ha! If we thought maybe you'd use some of them on us," sneered Andy, glad of an excuse not to fight. Tom quickly picked up his valise, shutting it, but he was aware of the close scrutiny of the two vindictive lads. "I don't fight with such things," he said, somewhat annoyed, and he hung the tools back on the handlebars. "What are you doing around the bank at this hour?" asked Sam, as if to change the subject. "First thing you know, the watchman will order you to move on. He might think you're a suspicious character." "How does this guy know that? Has it happened to him?" "The same to you," retorted Tom, "but I'm going to ride on now unless you want to have a further argument with me." "You'd better be careful how you hang around a bank," added Andy. "The police are on the lookout here. There's been some mysterious men seen about." Tom did not care to go into that, and seeing that the two bullies had lost all desire to attack him, he put up the brace and mounted his wheel. Climbed on the motorbike. "Goodbye," he called to Andy and Sam as he rode off, the tools rattling and jingling in the valise. But it was a sarcastic farewell, and the two cronies did not reply. "I hope I didn't damage any of the tools when I let them fall that time," mused the young inventor. "My, the way Sam and Andy stared at them, it would make it seem as if I'd a lot of weapons in the bag. They certainly took good note of them. Oh dear." The time was to come, and very shortly, when Andy's and Sam's observations of the tools was to prove disastrous for our hero. Yes, We knew that, didn't we? As Tom turned the corner, he looked back and saw, still standing in front of the bank, the two cronies. Chapter 11. The Red Cloud Departs. Just in time for me to have a drink of coffee. What about you? Do you need something to drink? Right, carrying on. The Red Cloud departs. Well, Dad, I wish you were going along with us, said Tom to his father next morning. You don't know what you're going to miss. A fine trip of several hundred miles through the air, seeing strange sights and experiencing new sensations. Several hundred miles. How far is it from about the latitude of Albany, New York, because that's about where they are, upstate New York, down to Atlanta, Georgia? I think it's a fair way. Yes, I wish you'd reconsider your... Oh, sorry, wrong accent. Yes, I wish you'd reconsider your determination and accompany us, added Mr. Damon. I would enjoy your company. I don't know that Mr... what's his name? Tom's dad wouldn't... Mr. Swift would really enjoy it. Having Mr. Damon there being very loud all the time. There's plenty of room. We can carry 6 persons with ease, said Mr. Sharp. That's the aeronaut. Mr. Swift shook his head and smiled. I have too much work to do here at home, he replied. Perhaps I may astonish you with something when you come back. I've nearly perfected my latest invention. There was no combating such a resolution as this, and Tom and the others considered the decision of the aged inventor as final. The airship was ready for the start, and everyone had arisen earlier than usual on this account. The bag of tools for which Tom had gone to town were put in their proper place. The last of the supplies were taken aboard. Final tests were made of the various apparatus. The motor had been given a trial spin, disconnected from the propellers. Motor, by the way. I'm pretty sure we had another one earlier on, but it's too late because that was in a previous chapter, so that doesn't count anymore. And then the balloonist announced, Well, Tom and Mr. Damon, you'd better begin to think of starting. We've had breakfast here, but there's no telling where we will eat dinner. Bless my soul, don't you talk that way, exclaimed Mr. Damon. You make me exceedingly nervous. Why shouldn't we know where we're going to eat dinner? Oh, I meant we couldn't tell over just what part of the United States we would be when dinner time came, explained the aeronaut. Oh, that's different. Bless my pocket knife, but I thought you meant we might be dashed to pieces and incapable of eating any dinner. Hardly, remarked Mr. Sharp. The Red Cloud is not that kind of an airship, I hope, but get aboard, if you please. It is that kind of an airship if you have Mr. Damon on board, by the way. We know that because he runs into things and has disasters every time. Tom and Mr. Damon entered the car. It was resting on the ground, on the small wheels used to start the airship when the gas inflation method was not used. In this case, however, it had been decided to rise in the air by means of the powerful vapour. Gas inflation. Another key word. Come on, guys. You're slacking. Gas. For gas inflation method. I need to recharge those rechargeable batteries. I've just seen them. I need to put them somewhere where I'm going to see them again and not lose them. So I remember I have to recharge them. There you go. These ones are USB ones. These are actually micro USB, not USB-C, which would be better. So they have a little wee hole in the top of them that you actually just poke your USB cord in. They actually come with a little wee cluster cord. USB-A at one end and 4 of those plugs at the other end. And that little ring there lights up green. I really would like the USB-C ones, so everything is the same. But these are good for what they are. They're just slightly older tech. They probably are not quite as good for charge and things like that. In this case, however, it had been decided to rise in the air by means of the powerful vapour and not use the wings and planes. Wings and planes? In the past, they've talked about planes and they've meant wings. Don't know. Until another time. Consequently, the ship was swaying slightly and tugging at the restraining cables. As Tom and Mr. Damon entered the cabin, there drove into the Swift yard a dilapidated wagon drawn by a bony mule. Well, we know who that is, don't we? And it did not need the addition of a coloured man's voice calling, "Whoa dar, Boomerang," to tell Tom that his friend Eradicate Sampson was on hand. As for Eradicate, as soon as he saw the great airship, which he had never before beheld, fully rigged, all ready for flight, his eyes became big with wonder. "Is that your flying machine, Mr. Swift? Master Swift? No, it is Mr. Swift," he asked. "That it is, Rad," answered Tom. "Don't you want to come and take a ride with us?" "Me good land a mercy! No, indeedy, Mr. Swift." And the whitewasher, who had descended from his wagon, that's what he does as a job, he whitewashes things, descended from his wagon, edged away as if the airship might suddenly put out a pair of hands and grab him. "No, indeedy, I don't. I come to do a little whitewashing, and when I do that, I's gonna go on my way." "But that's a powerful fine ship, it sure am." "Better come and try a flight, Rad," added Mr. Damon. "Better come and try a flight, Rad," added Mr. Damon. "I'll look after you." "No, sir, and I don't take it kind of you to tempt me that way, nuther," spoke Eradicate. But when he saw that the craft was stationary, he ventured to approach closer. Gingerly he put out one hand and touched the framework of the wheels just forward of the cabin. The man grasped the timber and lifted it slightly. To his astonishment, the whole front of the airship tilted up, for it was about ready to fly. In other words, it's got enough buoyancy in there that its weight is not holding it down. He's expecting it to be heavy, but it's not. And a child might have lifted it, so buoyant was it. But Eradicate did not know this. Wonderingly, he looked at the great bulk of the ship looming above him. Then he glanced at his arm. Once more, noting that the attention of his friends was elsewhere, he lifted the craft. Then he cried, "Look here, Master Swift, look here. No wonder they calls me Samson. I done lift this monstrousness airship with one hand. See, I can do it, I can do it." Once more he raised the red clouds slightly, and with a delighted grin, not unmixed with a look of awe, spreading across his honest countenance. "I suppose you'll give up whitewashing and join a circus now," observed Mr. Sharp, with a wink at his companions. "Days what I will," announced Eradicate proudly. "I never knowed I was that strong, but of course I allers knows I had some muscle. Golly, I must have growed strong overnight. Now, Boomerang, you sure has to look out for yourself. No more of your cutting up capers. If I just lift you up and set you down on your back, I sure will." And the man, feeling his biceps, walked over to where the mule stood, with its eyes closed, because Boomerang snoozes whenever he can. "I guess you can cast off, Tom," called Mr. Sharp as he entered the car, having seen that everything was all right. "We'll not go up very far at first until Mr. Damon gets used to the thin air." "Bless my soul, I believe I'm getting nervous," announced the eccentric man. "Bless my liver, but I hope nothing happens." And now I've gone and lost his voice. "Nothing will happen," Mr. Sharp assured him. "Just keep calm, and when it feels as if the bottom was dropping out of everything, and you'll soon Just keep calm when it feels as if the bottom is dropping out of everything, and you'll soon get over it. Are you casting off those ropes, Tom? Is all clear?" "All but the bow and stern lines." That's the one at the front and the one at the back. "You attend to the bow line, and I'll go to the stern." And going over to the gas generator, Mr. Sharp started it so as to force more vapour into the red aluminium container. This had the effect of rendering the airship more buoyant, and it tugged and strained harder than ever at the ropes. "Goodbye, Tom," called Mr. Swift, reaching up to shake hands with his son. "Drop me a line when you get a chance." "Oh, Tom, do be careful," implored Mrs. Baggert, her kind face showing her anxiety. "May I kiss you goodbye?" Of course, answered the young inventor, though the motherly housekeeper had not done this since he was a little chap. She had to stand on a soapbox, which Eradicate brought in order to reach Tom's face. And when she had kissed him, she said, "Oh, I'm so worried. I just know you'll be killed risking your lives in that terrible airship." "Ha! Not a very cheerful view to take, ma'am," observed Mr. Damon. "Don't hold to that view, I beg of you. Bless my eyelashes, but you'll see us coming home covered with glory and stardust." "I'm sure I hope so," answered Mrs. Baggett, laughing a little in spite of herself. The last ropes were cast off. Goodbyes were shouted as the airship shot into the air, and Mr. Sharp started the motor to warm it up before the propellers were thrown into gear. The 20 cylinders began exploding with a terrific racket, and I'm going to guess it's a rotary engine to have 20 cylinders rather than an inline engine. A rotary, you know how I talked about an inline engine and a V engine? Well, there's also a rotary engine, which is where the cylinders are set around it. So you don't need a crankshaft through that the same sort of crankshaft as you do normally. Sorry?
It's kind of like if you have one cylinder in each row, but if you extend it, a V engine right around.
Yeah, so if you've got a V engine, stack another V next to it, and then another V next to it, and you're going right around the circle. You do have a crankshaft, but not the same way. You don't need the same sort of setup for it because it's driving through the middle of the whole alignment.
Usually, don't have more than one cylinder width.
And you usually have no more than one cylinder width this way, so they're all around it like this, rather than down the length of the crankshaft to fit them in. So it's usually a single row of cylinders, I'm being told. Okay, there you go. As far as he knows. Right, I'm going to read now. The 20 cylinders began exploding with a terrific racket, as in they're starting to actually run. As the muffler was open, and Tom looking down, saw Boomerang awaken with a jump. Yes, the mule was so frightened he started off on a dead run, swinging the rickety old wagon along behind him. Oh dear, poor Eradicate has to catch it now. Eradicate Sampson, who'd been feeling his muscles since he discovered what he thought was his marvellous strength, saw what was happening. "Whoa there, Boomerang!" he shouted. Then as the tailboard of the wagon swung past him, he reached out and grabbed it. Perhaps he thought he could bring the runaway mule up standing, but if he did, he was grievously disappointed. Boomerang pulled his master along the gravel walk and kept running in spite of Eradicate's command of "Whoa there!" Might have gone hard with him had not Garrett Jackson, the engineer, running in front of Boomerang, caught the animal. Eradicate picked himself up and gazed sadly at his arms. The navigators of the air could not hear what he said, but what he thought was evident to them. Then, as Mr. Sharp deadened the explosions of the powerful motor, Tom looked at a gauge, noting that their height was 700 feet. "High enough," called Mr. Sharp, and it was time, for Mr. Damon, in spite of his resolution, was getting pale. The gas was shut off, the propellers thrown into gear, and with a rush the red cloud shot toward the south, passing over the Swift homestead and high above the heads of the crowd that had gathered to witness the start. The eventful voyage of the air had begun. There you go. Chapter 12, some startling news. That's a worry, some startling news. I wonder what that one's about.
Page link for rotary engines in
the Discord server and the Tom Swift chat. Tom,
I knew it was the right one because that's where all the airship related.
Yay! He knew it was the right channel to put it in because of the airship pictures and links.
Well, this one looks like it's probably the most recent, and I'm sure I heard the word Swift earlier.
Yes, Tom Swift. Does anyone remember what the lake was? Lake George, that they thought it was based on? Just while I'm taking a vocal break, because Mr. Damon's voice is really quite hard on your throat. Lake George, New York. Let's have a look at it, see if it actually looks anything like it. Well, Lake George is actually the name of the town. in the Adirondack region. Adirondack, sorry. I have always thought it was Adirondack, and apparently it's Adirondack. Not one of the Finger Lakes. Those are further west and south. So south of, what's that one called? Lake Champlain, I think it's called, which is on the border between New York and Vermont. So south of there, kind of in line, but further west because of the way the lake is shaped. So Lake George is the one that they think is probably the idea of where these guys are based. So if you want to look it up, Lake George, New York State. So next door to them is the Cat and Thomas Mountains Preserves and Adirondack Park, which looks like a little square on its own, I don't know why, and Pack Demonstration Forest. They have some slightly odd terms for things. Faro Lake Wilderness Area. Faro Lake. Interesting. I'm intrigued by what they've named that. Hoffman's Notch. That looks like it's the name of either a big hill or another forested area. Some rather intriguing place names around the lake, near the lake. Anyway, I shall ignore that for now and we'll get back to reading. And it's raining. I can hear it on the chimney, even if you can't. Chapter 12, some startling news. Well, there they go, remarked Mrs. Baggert to Mr. Swift as she strained her eyes toward the sky, against the blue of which the airship was now only a large black ball. Because it's getting further away, and the further away it is, the less colour definition. Yes, and a fine start they made, replied the inventor. I almost wish I had accompanied them, but I must not stop work on my submarine invention. I do hope nothing will happen to them, went on the housekeeper. I declare, though, I feel just as if something was going to happen. Oh, dear. Nervousness, pure nervousness, commented Mr. Swift. Better take a little, I suppose, catnip tea would be good? Catnip tea, the very idea, exclaimed Mrs. Baggert. That shows how much you know about nervousness, Mr. Swift, and she seemed a little indignant. Apparently catnip tea is not the one you take when you need something to help you calm down. Ha! Well, maybe catnip tea wouldn't be just the thing, but don't worry about Tom. I'm sure he can look after himself. As for Mr. Sharp, he has made too many ascensions to run into any unnecessary danger. Nervous, went on the housekeeper, who seemed to resent this state being applied to her. I'm sure I'm not half as nervous as that Mr. Damon. He gives me the fidgets. Of course, well, I must get back to my work, said the inventor. Ah, are you hurt, Eradicate? He went on as the man came back, driving Boomerang, who'd been stopped just before reaching the road. No, Mr. Swift, I ain't exactly damaged, but my feelings am sure hurted. How's that? Well, I thought that I had growed strong in the night when I lifted that airship, but when I went to stop my mule, I couldn't do it. He won't have no respect for me now. Oh, I wouldn't let that worry me, commented Mr. Swift, and he explained to Eradicate how it was that he had so easily lifted the end of the buoyant ship, which weighed very little when filled with gas. Gas. The man proceeded with his work of whitewashing. The inventor was in his library, puzzling over tables of intricate figures, and Mrs. Baggert was in the kitchen, sighing occasionally as she thought of Tom, whom she loved almost as a son, high in the air, when two men came up the walk from the street and knocked at the side door. Mrs. Baggert, who answered the summons, was somewhat surprised to see Chief of Police Simonson and Constable Higby. They probably came to see the airship start, she thought, but they're too late. Ah, good morning, Mrs. Baggert, greeted the chief. Is Mr. Swift and his son about this morning? Mr. Swift is in his library, but Tom's gone. He'll be back, though, won't he? Asked Constable Higby quickly, anxiously, Mrs. Baggert thought. Oh, yes, she replied. He and... Just take us to see Mr. Swift, interrupted the chief with a look of caution at his aide. We'll explain matters to him. Wondering what could be the mission of the two officers, Mrs. Baggert led them to the library. It's odd, she thought, that they don't ask something about the airship. I suppose that's what they came for, but maybe it's about the mysterious men who robbed Mr. Swift. Ah, gentlemen, what can I do for you? Asked the inventor as he rose to greet the officials. Ahem, Mr. Swift. Ahem. That is, well, the fact is, Mr. Swift, stammered the chief, we've come upon a very painful errand. What's that? Cried Tom's father. I haven't been robbed again, have I? There has been a robbery committed, spoke the constable quickly. But you are not the victim, interposed the chief. I'm glad of that, said Mr. Swift. Where is your son, Tom? Asked the head of the Shopton police force sharply. What do you want with him? Inquired the inventor, struck by some strange tone in the other's voice. Mr. Swift, went on the chief solemnly, I said we came upon a very painful errand. It is painful, as I have known Tom since he was a little lad, but I must do my duty, no matter how painful it is. I have a warrant for the arrest of your son, Thomas Swift, and I have come to serve it. I need not tell you that it is your duty to give him up to us, the representatives of the law. I call upon you to produce your son. Mr. Swift staggered to his feet. My son? You've come to arrest my son? He stammered. The chief nodded grimly. Upon what charge? Faltered the father. On a charge of breaking into the Shopton National Bank last night and stealing from the vault $75,000 in currency. That means not in gold or gems or anything else. $75,000? Tom accused of robbing the bank? Faltered Mr. Swift. That is the charge, and we've come to arrest him, broke in Constable Higby. Where is he? Added the chief. And no, I'm not going to try and distinguish their voices. It's too many voices as it is. This charge is false, absolutely false, shouted the aged inventor. That may be, admitted the chief, shaking his head, but the charge has been made, and we hold the warrant. The courts will settle it. We must now arrest Tom. Where is he? I think Mr. Swift is kind of letting a little bit of time work its way past as part of this. He isn't here, cried Mr. Swift, and small blame to him if there was a note of triumph in his voice. Tom sailed away not half an hour ago in the airship Red Cloud. You can't arrest him. He's escaped, shouted the constable. I told you, Chief, that he was a slippery customer and that we'd better come before breakfast. Tom, slippery customer. He's the good kid. Dry up, commanded the chief testily. So he's foiled us, eh? Run away when he knew we were coming. I think that looks like guilt, Mr. Swift. Never, cried the inventor. Tom would never think of robbing the bank. Besides, he has all the money he wants. The charge is preposterous. I demand to be confronted with the proof. That's actually for the courts, not for the police. You shall be, answered Chief Simonson vindictively. If you will come to the bank, you can see the rifled vault and hear the testimony of a witness who saw your son with burglar tools in his possession last night. We also have a warrant for Mr. Wakefield Damon. Do you know anything of him? He's gone with my son in the airship. Ha! The two criminals with their booty have escaped together, cried the chief. But we'll nab them if we have to scour the whole country. Come on, Higby. Mr. Swift, if you'll accompany me to the bank, I think I can give you all the proof you want. And the officials, followed by the amazed and grief-stricken inventor, left the house. Oh, my goodness. And I think here we're going to have a scene shift. from, I think at this point in the story, we're probably going to get a bit of alternating in chapters between what's happening at Shopton and what's happening in the airship, for part of it anyway. I have still yet to hear what you're drinking and eating, folks. I do like knowing about these things, so don't hold back. Right. Nearly 2:30. This is a shorter chapter coming up. Here we go. Chapter 13, Mr. Damon in Danger. The sensations of the voyagers in the airship who meanwhile were flying along over the country surrounding Shopton, were not very different than when they had undertaken some trial flights. In fact, Mr. Damon was a little disappointed after they had waved their farewells to Mr. Swift and Mrs. Baggert. "I declare I'm not nervous at all," he remarked as he sat in an easy chair in the enclosed car or cabin and looked down at the earth through the plate glass windows in the floor. Now, if you want to see pictures of what it looked like in an old airship, I think Goriki's put some links to some airship descriptions and pictures in the Tom Swift channel in the Discord server. And one of them is talking about the Hindenburg, but there's also a link on that page for the Graf Zeppelin, which is the one that is more like the style of this ship in this book, because it's got the gondola underneath instead of in the envelope. So if you follow that link through from the Hindenburg page, you will actually see kind of what they were like. Now, that is a much larger scale than the ship that the guys are in. So we'll carry on. But you'll see they've got armchairs and all sorts of things. Mind you, armchairs were a bit smaller than they are these days, style-wise. I thought you'd be all right once we got started, commented Mr. Sharp. Do you think you can stand going a trifle higher? Try it, suggested the eccentric man. Bless my watch chain, but as I said, I might as well die this way as any other. Hitting a cloud bank is easier than trying to climb a tree on a motorcycle, eh, Tom? Very much so, Mr. Damon, conceded the young inventor with a laugh. Oh, we'll not attempt any cloud heights for a day or two, went on Mr. Sharp. I want you gradually to get used to the rarefied atmosphere, Mr. Damon. Tom and I are getting to be old hands at it, but if you think you can stand it, I'll go up to about 1,000 feet higher. Make it 2,000 while you're at it, proposed the odd character. Might as well take a long fall as a short one. Accordingly, the elevation rudder was used to send the Red Cloud to a greater height while she still skimmed along like some great bird. Of course, the desired elevation could have been obtained by forcing more gas from the machine into the big red container overhead, but it was decided to be as sparing of this vapour as possible, since the voyagers did not want to descend to get more material, in case they used up what they had. It was just as easy to rise by properly working the rudders when the ship was in motion, and that was the method now employed. With the great propellers fore and aft, making about 1,000 revolutions a minute, the craft slanted up toward the sky. The ship was not being run at top speed, as Mr. Sharp did not care to force it, and there was no need for haste. Long distance rather than high speed was being aimed at on this first important flight. Tom was at the steering wheel and, with his hand on the lever controlling the elevation rudder, kept watch on the face of Mr. Damon, occasionally noting what height the hand on the gauge registered. He fancied he saw the cheeks of his friend growing pale, and when a height of 3,500 feet was indicated, with a yank, the young inventor pulled the airship on an even keel. Are you distressed, Mr. Damon? He asked. Yes, I have some difficulty in breathing, was the answer. Tom gave his friend the same advice the aeronaut had given the lad on his first trip, and the eccentric man soon felt better. Lad. Did we actually have motor before? I don't know. Nobody picked up on it. Bless my buttons, he ventured to explain, but I feel as if I've lost several pounds of flesh, and I'm glad of it. Mr. Sharp was busy with the motor. Motor. There you go, we've got motor now. Mr. Sharp was busy with the motor, which needed some slight adjustments, and Tom was in sole charge of navigating the airship. He had lost the nervous feeling that first possessed him, and was becoming quite an expert at meeting various currents of wind encountered in the upper regions. Yes, because wind up higher up in the sky is not the same as the wind down where you are. As in, it's not all moving the same. The wind I'm hearing past my house here is probably blowing from that way over to that way. But if I go outside and look at the high level clouds, I may find that they are moving in that direction, or even opposite to what this wind down at where the level my house is at. And that's very, very common. So if you're feeling wind on one side, if you look up higher and see if the clouds, the high clouds, not the ones that are just above you, see what direction they are moving in. You might be surprised at how different their direction is. So this is what he's talking about, meeting the different air currents, because they are. And they're a little bit like, it's like you can have a river that flows somewhere, but you can also have the banks on the sides where if they're very shallow, the water doesn't flow very fast, but in the middle of it, it flows very strongly. Then you can have it branching off in different directions. Air also does things like that, but not constrained by land to a riverbed shape or something like that. It just has different directions. It's quite interesting, air currents. But yeah, look up. You'd be amazed at what you notice that you may not have before. Mr. Sharp was busy with the motor, which I drank, which needed some slight adjustments, and Tom was in sole charge of navigating the airship. He'd lost the nervous feeling that had first possessed him, and had become quite an expert at meeting various currents of wind encountered in the upper regions. Below, the voyagers could see the earth spread out like a great map. They could not tell their exact location now, but by calculating their speed, which was about 30 miles an hour, Tom figured out that they were above the town of Centerford, near where he had been attacked once by the model thieves. Now, I will see if these illustrations here so they started off from Shopton, which is here, and then there's Waterfield, I don't know, with a / Waterford. In the books, it gets called one sometimes and then the other times, depending on which book you're reading. Daleton, sorry, I'm looking through the bottom of my glasses, Sandport, and I don't know if there's any others lower down. I'm just going to see if I can move that. This is no, I can't tell. So this is the only illustration I've found that has anything of any of the maps that are possible, but it does actually make sense as a location for these books. So we'll carry on. I'm going to shut that because there's no point in looking at the one from a lower angle along the lake, because that's looking northwards and these guys are traveling southwards. Excuse me a moment. That's better. I'll carry on. For several hours, the airship kept on her way, maintaining a height of about a mile, for when it was found that Mr. Damon could accommodate himself to 3,500 feet, the elevation rudder was again shifted to send the craft upward. I don't know how many feet are in a mile. Do you? Because if you do, you can tell us, and then we can figure out what height he's talking about. I don't know how many feet are in a mile. It's not a unit of measure I've really had to do conversions with. By using using glasses like the binoculars that I showed you previously. By using glasses, the travellers could see crowds on the earth watching their progress in the air. And though airships, dirigible balloons and aeroplanes were getting fairly common now, the appearance of one as novel and as large as the red cloud could always be depended upon to attract attention. He talks about them being common. Nothing like what they are now. Not the airships side of it, but, planes. "Well, what do you say to something to eat?" proposed Mr. Sharp, coming into the main cabin from the motor compartment. "It's 12 o'clock, though we can't hear the factory whistles up here. I'm ready any time you are," called Tom from the pilot house. "Shall I cook grub, Mr. Sharp?" "No, you manage the ship and I'll play cook. We'll not get a very elaborate meal this time, as I shall have to pay occasional visits to the motor, which isn't running just to suit me." Otherwise, he's not quite happy with it. Motor, by the way. "You make sure you're drinking water every time I drink water, and I would like to see some assent that you are doing so in chat, folks. Come on." The electrical stove was set going, and some soup and beefsteak were from among the stores was put on the heat. They used to call it the fire when they were cooking, but to us we normally call it the heat because most people don't light a fire to cook anymore, and electricity has become the more predominant usage. In spite of the fact that the day was a warm one in October, it was quite cool in the cabin. Well, yeah, they're up a few thousand feet. That's one of the things you find out about when you look at those pages about the various old airships, even though they're newer than this story, is that they were not in heated cabins. And so people would do things like wearing furs, or if it was heated, it was only slightly, because they're trying to conserve everything they can to be able to drive the ship. And so people would actually come with their fur coats and other things like that to keep them warm, because it was a rich person's type of travelling. So they had money for that sort of thing. It was quite cool in the cabin until the stove took off the chill. The temperature of the upper regions was several degrees below that of the earth, and if they go up higher, it'll be a lot colder. At times, the ship passed through little wisps of vapour clouds in the making. "Isn't this wonderful?" exclaimed Mr. Damon as he sat in an easy chair, partaking of some of the food. "To think that I have lived to see the day when I can take my lunch a mile in the air with a craft flying along like a bird. Bless my knife and fork, but it certainly is wonderful." Mr. Sharp relieved Tom at the wheel while the young inventor ate, and then with the airship heading southwest, the speed was increased a trifle, the balloonist desiring to see what the motor could accomplish under a heavy load. A drop of several hundred feet was made about an hour later, and as this made it warmer, Mr. Damon, who was a great lover of fresh air, decided to go out on the platform in front of the cabin. Didn't know they had one, did you? This platform and a similar one at the rear was railed about to prevent accidents. A fine view could be had from them, much better than through the floor windows of the car. "Be careful of the propeller," advised Tom as his friend went outside. "I don't believe you're tall enough to be hit by the blades, but don't take any chances of standing on your tiptoes." "Bless my pocket handkerchief, indeed I'll not," came the answer. Oh, Mr. Damon went out. Okay, yeah, I forgot. Sorry. Came the answer, "but I think I shall wrap up my throat in the scarf I brought along. I am subject to neuralgia, and the breeze may bring on an attack of it." Neuralgia, I think, is just generalized pain. I'm not sure. I think so. Wrapping a long woolen scarf around his neck, the eccentric man ventured out on the open platform. "Tuck the ends of the scarf away, or you may get choked." About the middle of it, but sufficiently high to be above a person's head, was the forward propeller whirring around at a swift speed. Tom, with his eye on the various gauges and the compass, was steering the airship. Hang on, what was this chapter called? Mr. Damon in danger. Oh dear. Tom, with his eye on the various gauges and the compass, was steering the airship. He glanced at Mr. Damon, who appeared to be enjoying the view from the platform. For an instant the eyes of the lad were taken from the form of his friend. He looked back suddenly, however, his attention attracted by a smothered cry. He was horrified by what he saw. Mr. Damon was leaning far over the edge of the railing, with nothing between him and the earth 1,000 feet below. He seemed to have lost his balance and had toppled forward, being doubled up on the iron pipe railing, his hands hanging limply over. Hanging over his hands. Then, as Tom cried to Mr. Sharp to shut off the motor, the lad saw that hanging to the blade of the propeller and being whirled around in its revolutions was a part of Mr. Damon's red scarf. "Hurry, hurry, Mr. Sharp!" yelled Tom, not daring to let go of the steering wheel for fear the ship would encounter a treacherous current and tilt. "Hurry to Mr. Damon!" "What's the matter?" asked the balloonist. "He's dead or unconscious, hanging over the railing. He seems to be slipping. Hurry or it'll be too late." Chapter 14. Andy gives the clue. So we go back to Shopton now. When Mr. Swift followed the chief of police and the constable to the town hall, his mind was filled with many thoughts. All his plans for revolutionizing submarine travel were, of course, forgotten, and he was only concerned with the charge that had been made against his son. It seemed incredible, yet the officers were not ones to perpetrate a joke. The chief and constable had driven from town in a carriage, and they now invited the inventor to ride back with them. "Do you mean to tell me a warrant has actually been sworn out against my son, Chief?" asked the father when they were near the town hall. "That's just what I mean to say, Mr. Swift, and I'm sorry on your account that I have to serve it." "Hub, don't look like you was going to serve it," remarked the constable. "He skipped out." "That's all right, Higby," went on the chief. "I'll catch 'em both. Even if they have escaped in an airship with their booty, I'll nab 'em. I'll have a general alarm out over all the country in less than an hour. They can't stay up in the air forever." Can you hear that rain and wind? "A warrant for Tom, my son?" murmured Mr. Swift, as if he could not believe it. "Yes, and for that Damon man too," added the chief. "I want him as well as Tom, and I'll get him." "Would you mind letting me see the warrants?" asked the inventor, and the official passed them over. The documents were made out in regular form, and the complaints had been sworn to by Isaac Pendergast, the bank president. "I can't understand it," went on Tom's father. $75,000? It's incredible. Why," he suddenly exclaimed, "it can't be true. Just before he left, Mr. Damon—" "Yes, what did he do?" asked the chief eagerly, thinking he might secure some valuable evidence. "I guess I'll say nothing until I've seen the bank president," replied Mr. Swift, and the official was obviously disappointed. The inventor found Mr. Pendergast, they are both real surnames, Pendergast and Pendergast. I forget which one I'm meant to be reading. The inventor found Mr. Pendergast and some other bank officials in the town hall. The financiers were rather angry when they learned that the accused persons had not been caught, but the chief said he would soon have them in custody. "In the meanwhile, will you kindly explain what this means?" asked Mr. Swift of the president. "You may come and look at the looted vault if you like, Mr. Swift," replied Mr. Pendergast. "It was a very thorough job and will seriously cripple the bank." There was no doubt that the vault had been forced open, for the locks and bars were bent and twisted as if by heavy tools. I thought he had spanners and things. Mr. Swift made a careful examination and was shown the money drawers that had been smashed. "This is the work of experts," he declared. "Exactly what we think," said the president. "Of course, we don't believe your son was a professional bank robber, Mr. Swift. We have a theory that Mr. Damon did the real work, but that Tom helped him with the tools he had. There is no doubt about it." "What right have you to accuse my son?" burst out the aged inventor. Why have you any more cause to suspect him than any other lad in town? Why do you fix on him and Mr. Damon? I demand to know." Mr. Damon's eccentric actions for a few days past and his well-known oddity of character make him an object of suspicion, declared the President in judicial tones. As for Tom, we have, I regret to say, even better evidence against him. But what is it? What? Who gave you any clues to point to my son? Do you really wish to know? I certainly do, was the sharp reply. Mr. Swift, the police, and several bank officials were now in the President's office. The latter pressed an electric bell, and when a messenger answered, he said, "Send young Ferger here." At the mention of this name, Mr. Swift started. He knew well the red-haired bully was an enemy of his son. Andy entered, walking rather proudly at the attention he attracted. "This is Mr. Swift," said the President. "I know him," blurted out Andy. "You will please tell him what you told us," went on Mr. Pendergast. "Well, I seen Tom Swift hanging about this bank with burglar tools in his possession last night just before it was robbed," exclaimed the squint-eyed lad triumphantly. "Hanging around the bank last night with burglar tools?" repeated Mr. Swift in dazed tones. "That's right," from Andy. "How do you know they were burglar tools?" "That's a good question." "Because I saw him," said Andy. "He had him in a valise on his motorcycle. He was standing at the corner waiting for a chance to break into the bank when me and Sam Snedeker saw him. He pretended to be fixing his machine. Then the bag of burglar tools fell off, the satchel came open, and I seen him. That's how I know." "And you're sure they were burglar tools?" asked the chief. "And you're sure they were burglar tools?" asked the chief, for he depended on Andy to be his most important witness. "Sure I am. I seen a picture of burglar tools once, and the ones Tom had were just like 'em. Long-handled wrenches, brace and bits and all. He tried to hide 'em, but me and Sam was too quick for him. He wanted to lick me too." "No doubt you deserved it," murmured Mr. Swift. "But how do you know my son was waiting for a chance to break into the bank?" "'Cause wasn't it robbed right after he was hanging around here with the burglar tools?" inquired Andy, as if it was unanswerable. "What were you hanging around here for?" Mr. Swift demanded quickly. "Me? Oh, well, me and Sam Snedeker was out taking a walk, that's all." "You didn't want to rob the bank, did you?" went on the inventor keenly. "Course not," roared the bully indignantly. "I ain't got no burglar tools." Andy told more along the same line, but his testimony of having seen Tom near the bank with a bag of odd tools could not be shaken. In fact, it was true as far as it went, but of course the tools were only those for the airship. The same ones Mr. Sharp had sent the lad after. Sam Snedeker was called in after Andy and told substantially the same story. Mr. Swift could not understand it, for he knew nothing of Tom being sent for the tools and had not heard any talk at home of the bag of implements. Not that he would remember, because he's so caught up in his submarine design at the moment. Still, of course, he knew Tom had nothing to do with the robbery, and he knew his son had been at home all the night previous. Still, this was rather negative evidence, but the inventor had one question yet to ask. "You say you also suspect Mr. Damon of complicity in this affair?" he went on to the chief of police. "We sure do," replied Mr. Simonson. "Then can you explain," proceeded the inventor, "how it is that Mr. Damon has on deposit in this bank a large sum? Would he rob the bank where his own funds were?" "We are prepared for that," declared the President. "It is true that Mr. Damon has about $10,000 in our bank, but we believe he deposited it only as a blind so as to cover up his tracks. It is a deep-laid scheme, and escaping in the airship is part of it. I am sorry, Mr. Swift, but I have to believe your son and his accomplice guilty, but I am obliged to. I am sorry that I have to, but I am obliged to. Chief, you'd better send out a general alarm. The airship ought to be easy to trace." "I'll telegraph at once," said the official. "And you believe my son guilty solely on the testimony of these two boys, who, as is well known, are his enemies?" asked Mr. Swift. "The clue they gave us is certainly most important," said the president. "Andy came to us and told us what he'd seen as soon as it became known that the bank had been robbed." "And I'm going to get the reward of giving information of the robbers too," cried the bully. I think there's a little bit of having his cake and eating it here, maybe. I don't think he did the robbery, but I think the guys who tried to run Mr. Damon off the road, the escaped convicts, have something to do with it. And I think they might be using Andy. "Ah, then there is a reward offered?" inquired Mr. Swift. $5,000, answered Mr. Pendergast. "The directors, all of whom are present save Mr. Foger, Andy's father, met early this morning and decided to offer that sum. And I'm going to get it," announced the red-haired lad again. Mr. Swift was much downcast. There seemed to be nothing more to say, and, being a man unversed in the ways of the world, he did not know what to do. He returned home. When Mrs. Baggert was made acquainted with the news, she waxed indignant. So she went on about it. "Ah, Tom, a thief!" she cried. "Why don't they accuse me and Mr. Jackson and you? The idea! You ought to hire a lawyer, Mr. Swift, and prosecute those men for slander. Do you think it would be a good plan?" "I certainly do. Why, they have no evidence at all. What does that mean, sneaking Andy Foger? What does that mean, sneaking Andy Foger, amount to? Get a lawyer and have Tom's interests looked after." Mr. Swift, glad to have someone share the responsibility with, felt somewhat better when a well-known Shopton attorney assured him that the evidence against Tom was of such a flimsy character that it would scarcely hold in a court of justice. "It's all allegations." "But they have warrants for him and Mr. Damon," declared the inventor. "Very true, but it is easy to swear out a warrant against anyone. It's a different matter to prove a person guilty." "But they can arrest my son." "Yes, if they catch him. However, we can soon have him released on bail." "It's disgraceful," said Mrs. Baggert. "Not at all, my dear ma'am, not at all. Good and innocent persons have been arrested." "They're going to send out a general alarm for him," bewailed Mr. Swift. Sorry, that was the wrong voice. I'm looking at your emotes there, Void. They're lovely. The dance one and the love one. That's really cool. "They're going to send out a general alarm for my son," bewailed Mr. Swift. "Yes, but I fancy it will be some time before they catch him and Mr. Damon if the airship holds together. I can't think of a better way to keep out of the clutches of the police." "And their silly charge," chuckled the lawyer. "Now, don't worry, Mr. Swift. It will all come out all right." I think this guy's pretty good at reading people. The inventor tried to believe so, but though he knew his son was innocent, it was rather hard to see within the next few days. Big posters on all the vacant walls and fences offering a reward of $5,000 for the arrest of Tom Swift and Wakefield Damon, who were charged with having flown away in an airship with $75,000 of the bank's money. It should be a reward for the apprehension of them, leading to not their arrest, but leading to them actually going to court and being found guilty. Otherwise, they will have to pay out, even if they're just arrested, based on someone's tip. "I guess Tom Swift will wish they'd been more decent to me when I collect the money for his arrest," said Andy to his crony Sam, the day the bills were posted. "Yeah, but I get my share, don't I?" asked Sam. "Sure," answered the bully. "I wish they'd hurry up and arrest him." Within a few days, the country was covered with posters telling of the robbery and the reward, and police officials in cities large and small, and in towns and villages, were notified by telegraph to arrest and capture at any cost the occupants of a certain large red airship. Dear. Mr. Swift, on the advice of his lawyer, sent several telegrams to Tom, appraising him of what had happened. The telegraph company was asked to rush the telegrams to the first city when word came in that the red cloud had landed. Oh, I didn't know you could send telegrams that way, where you're sending it, you're not quite sure where it's going to, but when you get the information, then they actually deliver it. Oh dear. Chapter 15, Fired Upon. That means someone's shooting. Tom's excited call to the aeronaut, telling of the mishap of Mr. Damon, was answered immediately. That's right, we're back on the airship, and this is all on the first day. We've not had talk of them staying overnight. We've just had talk of them eating a meal. The mishap to Mr. Damon was answered immediately. Mr. Sharp jumped forward from the motor compartment and, passing on his way the electric switch, he yanked it out, stopping the machinery and the great propellers. Then he leapt out on the platform. But something else happened. Just before the accident, the eccentric man, desiring to give a further test to the planes, the gas had been shut off, making the airship an aeroplane instead of a dirigible balloon. Consequently, as soon as the forward motion ceased, the great ship began falling. We're sinking, cried Tom, forgetting for a moment that he was not in his motorboat. Slant your rudder up and glide downward as slowly as you can, directed Mr. Sharp. I'll start the engine again as soon as I rescue him, for it was risky to venture out on the platform with the propeller whirring, as the dangling piece of scarf might whip around the balloonist and toss him off. Mr. Sharp was soon at Mr. Damon's side. He saw that the man was unconscious. Whether from fright or some injury could not be determined. There was, however, no sign of a wound, so that's good. It was no easy task to carry, half dragging it, the heavy body of Mr. Damon off the platform, but the aeronaut was a muscular individual, and, long hanging from a trapeze at great heights, stood him in good stead. He brought the unconscious man into the cabin, and then, quickly returning to the platform, he detached the piece of scarf from the propeller blade. Next he started the motor and also turned on the gas tank so that the airship in a few minutes could float in space without motion. You needn't steer now, Tom, said the balloonist. Just give me a hand here. Is he dead? Inquired the lad, his voice faltering. No, his heart's beating. I can't understand what happened. Mr. Sharp was something of a rough-and-ready surgeon and doctor, and a small box of medicines had been brought along in case of emergencies. Yeah, he probably would have needed to be able to do that sort of thing if he was doing that sort of balloonist work in the circus. With the red cloud now lazily floating in the air, once the falling motion had been checked by the engine, the motor had been stopped again, Mr. Sharp set about restoring Mr. Damon to consciousness. It was not long before the man opened his eyes. The colour that had left his cheeks came back, and after a drink of cold water he was able to sit up. Did I fall? He asked. Bless my very existence! But did I tumble off the airship? No, indeed, replied Tom, though you came pretty near to it. How do you feel? Were you hurt? Oh, I'm all right now, just a trifle dizzy, but I thought... Sure, I was a goner when I fell over the platform railing, and Mr. Damon could not repress a shudder. Mr. Sharp administered some more medicine, and his patient was soon able to stand and move about. In the old days, I would have said smelling salts, because that's how you revive someone who has basically fainted. It's a really strong, harsh smell that shocks your brain into waking itself up, kind of. Used to be used a lot when it was just straight unconsciousness that was being dealt with, not head injury and stuff like that. Fainting, not unconsciousness. How did it happen? Inquired the balloonist. I hardly know, answered Damon. I was out on the platform looking at the view and thinking how much better my neuralgia was with the scarf on. Suddenly the wind whipped loose one end of the scarf, and before I knew it, the cloth had caught on the propeller blade. I was blown or drawn to one side, tossed against the railing, which I managed to grab, and then I lost my senses. It's a good thing I wasn't whirled around the propeller. It's a good thing you weren't tossed down to the earth, commented Tom, shivering as he thought of his friend's narrow escape. I became unconscious, partly because the wind was knocked from me as I hit the platform railing, went on Mr. Damon, and partly from fright, I think. But I'm all right now, and I'm not going out on that platform again with a loose scarf on. He shouldn't have in the first place. I wouldn't go out at all if I were you, though, of course, I'm used to dizzy heights, spoke Mr. Sharp. Oh, I'm not so easily frightened, declared Mr. Damon. If I'm going to be a balloonist or an aeroplanist, I've got to get used to certain things. I'm all right now. And the plucky man was, for the blow to his side did not amount to much. It was some time, however, before Tom got over the fright his friend had caused him. They spent that night moving slowly south, and in the morning found they had covered about 100 miles, not having run the ship to anything like its maximum speed. Breakfast was served above the clouds for a change, Mr. Damon finding that he could stand the great height with comfort. It was 3 days after the start, and the travellers were proceeding slowly along. They were totally unaware, of course, of the sensation which their leaving conjointly with the bank robbery had caused, not only in Shopton, but in other places. We're over a good-sized city, announced Tom on the noon of the third day. Suppose we drop down and leave some message. Dad'll be anxious to hear from us. Good idea, commented Mr. Sharp. Down it is. Shift the rudder. Tom proceeded to do so, and while Mr. Damon relieved him at the wheel, the young inventor prepared a message to his father. It was placed in a weighted envelope together with a sum of money, and the person picking it up was requested to send the letter as a telegram, retaining some money for his trouble. As soon as the ship got lower and lower over the city, the usual crowds could be seen congregating in the streets, pointing and gazing upward. We're creating quite a stir, said Tom. More than usual, it seems, added Mr. Sharp, peering down. I declare there seems to be a police parade underway. That's right, put in Mr. Damon, for looking down, a squad of uniformed officers, some on horseback, could be seen hurrying along the main street, trying to keep pace with the airship, which was moving slowly. They're looking up at us through telescopes, called Tom. Guess they never saw a balloon down this way. Nearer and nearer to the city dropped the red cloud. Tom was about to let go the weighted envelope when, from the midst of the police, came several puffs of white smoke. It was followed by vicious zipping sounds about the cabin of the ship, the windows of which were open. Then came reports of several rifles. They're firing at us, yelled Tom. So they are, cried Mr. Sharp. We're just after 3, and I'm just finishing this chapter. Can't they see we're not a bird? Maybe they take us for a war balloon, suggested Mr. Damon. Another volley was directed at the airship, and several bullets struck the big aluminium gas holder, glancing blows. Here, quit that, yelled Tom, leaning out of the window. Are you crazy? You'll damage us. They can't hear you, called Mr. Sharp. A third volley was fired, and this time several persons other than police officers seemed to be shooting at the airship. Revolvers as well as rifles were being used. We've got to get out of this, shouted Mr. Sharp as a bullet sang uncomfortably close to his head. I can't imagine what's gotten into the people. Send her up, Tom. The lad quickly shifted the elevation rudder, and the red cloud sailed majestically aloft. The young inventor had not dropped his message, concluding that citizens who would fire on travellers of the air for no reason would not be likely to accommodate them in the matter of sending messages. Good point. The craft mounted rapidly upwards, but before it was beyond the rifle shot, another volley was fired, one bullet sending some splinters flying from the wooden framework. Phew, that was a narrow escape, exclaimed Mr. Sharp. What in the world can those people be up to anyhow? Wouldn't it have been better to let them land? To see if they were going to land and then try to stop them rather than just shooting at them from the police's point of view. Anyway, so that's the end of the chapter and the end of today's reading. Very exciting, actually. And next time we will be reading, starting with chapter 16, Over a Fiery Furnace. I'm trying to think if there are any active volcanoes between that part of New York and Atlanta, Georgia. No, can't think of any. So over a fiery furnace, what would that be? Oh my goodness. Because so far, all of the chapter titles have been accurate, even if we haven't understood what they mean when they start. Anyway, so there you go, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for being part of what's going on here. Even if you're not saying a lot, that's fine. It's lovely to have